I want to welcome you today to Less Stuff, More Stories. This is a partner webinar between Mylio Photos and Artifacts, and we're going to be talking about how photo organization and taking those photos of your memorabilia, your heirlooms, and preserving them, how that all works together, how you can organize your stuff, and make sure that those stories are passed on. So, as we jump into this, I want to introduce myself. My name is Angela Andrieux. I'm a product evangelist for Mylio Photos. What that means is I teach people how to use the software, make sure that they're successful. I write a lot of documentation and do a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm also, in my time, I'm a fine art photographer, photo educator, and my family's memory keeper, meaning that I've been tasked with scanning a lot of our photos and making sure those things are preserved, making sure faces get tagged, and all of those things. So that's what I'm really all about. With that, I'd like to go ahead and pass the floor over to JC Figueroa. He's our customer success lead at Mylio, and he's going to be co-hosting this webinar with me.
Hi, everyone. I'm JC. I'm the customer success lead at Mylio. That means I am the guy that you talk to when you need help. Myself and my team manage all of support and also do other things such as this webinar, helping with onboarding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm an underwater photographer as a quasi hobby, and I'm also my family memory keeper because every family needs one. And I've been working in the technology and media industry all of my career. I won't tell you how long because I'd like to think that I'm younger than I look, or that I look younger than I am. Anyway, and joining us, we also have Ellen from Artifcts. So, Ellen, you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, JC. Hi, everybody. Yes, Ellen from Artifacts. I am the co-founder and the Chief Solutions Officer. And what that means is I am responsible for product and engineering over here at Artifacts and dreaming up really cool features and fun ways to meet you all where you're at, whether that's on our desktop or on our mobile app. And so I'm delighted to share a bit more about Artifacts from with the world of photos and the team at Mylio. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Before we jump into the content today, I just want to let you guys know that this is being recorded. If for some reason you need to jump off or you want to watch it again later, you can find it at community.mylio.com. We'll also make sure that Ellen gets a copy of that recording so she can share it on her community, her audience as well. We typically get those edited and posted within 1 to 2 business days. During this presentation, if you have questions, we love questions, there is a chat pod. This is great for communicating with other people who are here, but if you have specific questions that you would like one of us to answer, make sure you use that Q&A pod. You might find it under the 3 dots there at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Just click that. That lets you post specific questions, and we will do our best to make sure all of those questions get answered either during the presentation or at the end. With that, I just want to give you a quick overview of what we're doing today. We're going to do an overview of Mylio Photos. You're going to learn how you can capture and organize photos of meaningful items, add context with metadata, and make sure your stuff is ready to withstand the long haul. We're also going to do an overview of artifacts. Alan's going to talk about what makes artifacts different from traditional memory keeping, how to prepare images with stories, documents, and more, and preserve and share those heirlooms, not just photos. We're going to end off this with JC and I both doing some live artifacting. We're going to take some of our photos, some of our memories, and we're going to go ahead and create those stories live with you today. So this should be a lot of fun. You also get to learn a little bit about us along the way. And I think this is going to be a great presentation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw the floor over to JC, let him go over and take the screen sharing, and he's going to give you a walkthrough of Mylio.
All right. Thank you, Angela.
You're
And
welcome.
Patty, I think you had your hand raised. Oh, she lowered it. Okay. Yeah. Type the question in the Q&A and we'll take care of you. We'll also do a Q&A at the end. So that will be the time to raise your hand. But here we are. This is Mylio. And what you're seeing right now is what we call the Mylio calendar view. And for those of you new to Mylio, completely unfamiliar with the product, what Mylio does is it provides you a location to consolidate all of your media, all of your photos, all of your videos, any important documents that you consider worth keeping and having organized. You can put all of that in Mylio, and Mylio will use a lot of the data intrinsically embedded into a lot of that media to automatically organize your photos and your videos in many ways. One of those ways is the calendar view. And I like to call the calendar view how I find photos based on when something happened. The calendar view uses the date on the photo file to present the photo in a calendar. And you also have tools to correct those days. So if you have a photo that was really in the 1800s showing up in 2025 because that's when you scanned it, you can use the tools in Mylio to correct that date and have that photo presented in the right part of the calendar. What you're seeing now is what we call decade mode. So you'll notice that Mylio here at the top is showing me 2020s. And as I scroll through my photos, you can see that I can go back in time and see the 2010s decade and photos of myself, my family, some underwater photos. I can keep going back in time from when my son was born in 2003, when my daughter was born in 1995, then high school and college, and then it gets into photos of my family, and then it goes into photos from before I was born. So these are some family heirlooms, things like my dad receiving awards from the military, or the only photo I have of my grandma there from 1964. She died quite a while before I was born. So this gives me one location to find all of my photos. And as you can see, I have corrected the dates on a lot of these photos so that they show in the appropriate year. Now, if I scroll down and go back to more present times, I can use Mylio to dig deeper into that calendar. I can go and click in the year 2018, and now Mylio is showing me all the months of that year. If I click on a particular month like May, it shows me all the months of that, all the days of that month for which there's photos. And if I click on a particular day, now I have photos taken on May 4, 2018. We went to the Grand Canyon, and I can click on any particular photo, click the info button, and I'm gonna get a lot of information about that photo. What camera did I use? Here's where you would correct the date if you needed to, the file name. And then I can add keywords to that. I can have smart tags, which are machine learning or AI-based automatic tagging of photos, where the photo tells you, oh, there's mountains here. There's somebody with their eyes closed, which I don't know how it knows that I have my eyes closed behind the sunglasses. No, I'm joking. Obviously, it thinks my eyes are closed because of the sunglasses. The location of the photo, etc., etc., etc. So that is the calendar view. And it's just one of the views in Mylio that presents your entire gallery or entire library of photos. The other thing you'll notice here is there's this little colorful dots all over the place. Those represent events. And I can click on any one event and it'll take me to all the photos that are representative of that event, like my granddaughter being born. So yet another way of organizing within the calendar view. So that's calendar view, one of the views. Sometimes I don't remember when something happened, but I remember where something happened. And all of this is going to be very relevant when you're trying to find all the photos of those artifacts to put them together and create a longer lasting memory. So don't remember when, but I might remember where. That's where the map view comes into play. The map view is just that. It's a map that shows you thumbnails of your photos all over the world. And I can zoom in into any particular area. And the more I zoom in, the more detail I'm going to get as to where the photos were taken. And as I zoom and zoom and zoom, more and more thumbnails appear in that location. Of course, this is the area where I live, so there's a lot more photos taken here than if I go to, like, Africa. I haven't been there, so nothing's going to show up. I love the map view because it helps me in many ways. For example, I can go and recreate a hike. If I zoom here into the Olympic Mountains, I can have one of our views is the topographic view. And here I can see not only all the photos that I took along the way, but if I zoom enough, I can even see the trail that I was following. So here is me starting the trail at the trailhead. You can see that there's a road that led to there. And then I can just kind of follow that trail along. There's a little campsite, and I can click on any one of the thumbnails and it takes me to the photos that were taken in that particular location. And just like with the data for dates in the calendar view, you can use tools in Mylio to correct the geolocation of your photos. You'll notice that at the bottom left corner of the screen, there's a button that says View on Tag. That is going to show me all the photos in my gallery that, or in my library rather, that don't have a date that don't have a location attached to them, right? So here's a bunch of photos of my granddaughter, and I happen to know that these were taken where she lives in Atlantic Beach, so I could just say, show me Atlantic Beach, Florida, and there it is. I click on it. It takes me to that location, and I'll just zoom in and drag those photos to the right location. And the moment I click that little green icon, Mylio is going to geotag those photos, so now they'll appear in my map view next time I go and look at that area. I'm not going to do it because that's not exactly where the photo was taken, so I want to be a little bit more precise, but I wanted to show you the capability is there to be able to do something like that. So that's the map view, finding photos based on when something or where something was taken. For a lot of us, one of the most important things about a photo is who is in the photo, not when it was taken or where it was taken, but who the photo is of. And that's where the map view comes into play. The map view is a place where I can click and find special containers with all of the photos of a particular person. So let's say my daughter. I can do a quick find and type her name, Madeleine, and Mylio is going to find the container for my daughter because I have a lot of containers. And when I open that, Mylio is going to show me all the photos that I have of my daughter. And I can have these sorted either by rating or by name or by date created. So I'm going to do date created. And if I go to the top here, I have some photos that are not dated. Notice that it says undated. But once I get into the photos that I have corrected the dates for, I can start seeing my daughter from a baby all the way through her toddler years, her childhood, etc., etc. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom, which is going to be a lot of photos, so many, you'll see lots of photos of my daughter now holding her daughter. It's very hard to find a photo where her daughter is not also on the photo. But I didn't have to go and tell Mylio for this almost 4,000 photos, here's my daughter, here's my daughter, here's my daughter. That would be a lot of work. And I love my daughter, but I'm too lazy to do that. So what I did is I taught Mylio how to find the photos of my daughter. I manually tag a handful of photos, half a dozen or so. And then Mylio starts proposing more and more and more photos. You'll notice that there's a little question mark here next to her name. That means that Mylio has included some proposals into that container. So if I open that container and I say, Mylio, instead of showing me all of the faces, only showing me the proposals, here's every photo that is found of my daughter, including a childhood one, where it says, I'm pretty sure this is Madeline, but I want you to confirm. And just by looking really quickly, I can tell you that these are all my daughter. So I could simply select them all and click the green check mark. Or if one of them was incorrect, I could say, oh, no, that's not Madeline, that's Lucy, etc., etc. So very easy, lots of tools to correct the data, and a great way to find photos of the people that are important to you. And again, all of this comes into play as you're trying to find those specific memories. First is the ability to aggregate them all into one library. Then is the ability to finding what you're looking for. A lot of people say a photo is worth 1,000 words, and I think that's a truism rather than a cliche. But it's only worth 1,000 words if you can find it. So I'm only going to show you one more view. There's 3 more, but I'm only going to show you one more view, and that's our album view. And this is a place where you can create collections. And this is very important because this is where we're going to start our artifacts journey. What I did is I used some of the other tools in Mylio to create an album that is a collection of things that belong together, whether it's, photos of monkeys or photos of dolphins or photos of birds. You can take all the photos from all the different locations, all the different places or times, and still have a virtual gallery, a virtual collection where you can aggregate them all. And that is what I did with some of the articles that I want to become artifacts. One of them is really important to me is a crib. And in here I have 43 photos of the same crib. And there's a story to this crib. That's going to be part of the artifact that I'm going to be creating. But I'm going to tell you how I found those photos and how they became part of this album. I'm going to start with the all photos view, which shows me everything in my library. Now, I'm sure that everyone in attendance today has done this thing with their phone where they're looking for a photo. I call it the endless scroll of death. And sometimes you find it, more often than not, you do not. So we do have that view here, but I don't like it because it's very hard to find things. So I'll just go here to the dynamic search and notice that all I did was type the word crib. And Mylio found everything that it thought was a crib, either because I added a keyword to that photo or because it knows what a crib looks like and it found certain items and smart tagged them with the word crib. You'll notice right here in my smart tags, it says is 75.6% certain that there's a crib in this photo. So that's how I found a lot of these photos. But there were other photos where you could not see the crib, but they were part of the story. A perfect example is after we refinished this crib, and I don't want to spoil the artifact, but this crib has been around and has been used by many people in my family. When we refinished the crib and took it to Florida, where my granddaughter was born, we took it on the plane with us. So we boxed it up. So obviously, when I typed crib, those photos didn't come up, but I wanted those photos to be part of the story. And if I go to my album here and I open that album, you'll be able to see that there are those photos right here showing me the crib, being put into cargo on the plane. And I'm like, this is part of the story. I want to include them. I want to find these photos, but when I do a search, they didn't come up. So how did I find them? Well, I remember when I went to Florida with the crib. I remember that it was, a few weeks before Lucy was born, and I know when my granddaughter was born. So I simply went to the calendar view. I went to 2023 when Lucy was born. I went to the month of September. She was born on September 30th. So I figure it was like a couple of weeks before that. And then I just started looking not at the 60,000 photos that I have in my library, but at a subset of photos that were likely happening when we were traveling with the crib. And there it is, September 25th is one of them. And September 24, when a friend of ours drove us to the airport and we took a red-eye fly with the crib. So that's the crib in Seattle, Washington, being taken into the cargo area. And this is the next morning in Jacksonville, Florida, where we went to rent a larger car than we had intended so that we could put the crib in there. So that is just a quick overview of some of the tools that you can have in Mylio to find all of this media that is important to you. And from there, what I was able to do was, on my Artifact account, create a family crib. And it tells the story how in 1994, before my daughter was born, I had this harebrained idea that I was going to not buy a crib for her, but build a crib for her. And I had never done any woodworking whatsoever, with the exception of like helping build sets for high school and for theater in high school. So I did it. It took me way longer than I expected, but there is a photo of my daughter sleeping in her crib, and her brother used the same crib 8 years later when he was born. And then when we found out that she was going to have a baby, we decided that we were going to refinish the crib. And she has a nautical theme room. So my wife painted some nautical theme artwork on it. We put her name on it. And you'll notice that here, if I click continue reading, there's even more to the story because I created a separate artifact that takes me to Lucy actually being in the crib. So that is my first artifact. And I'm going to use this opportunity to pass it over to Ellen so she can tell you more about artifacts and all the amazing things that you can do with these memories and how you can make them just that much more valuable and shareable. So, Ellen, I'll leave it up to you. I'll stop sharing in case you want to share your screen.
I am going to share in just a moment. Here we go. Let's hope technology works, folks. All right. So JC set me up really beautifully, and I even am going to pivot a little bit my approach. If you are new to Artifacts, I know we have a great blended audience here tonight. We have some Mylio fans, we have some Artifacts fans, and we're coming together because it's really important. The brilliance of their software is no matter where your photos live, you can get them organized in Mylio and make sure they're updated and backed up too. So this is really, really great technology. Over here, Artifacts, where stuff and stories meet, right? And what I always tell people is that one generation removed and the story's gone. A second generation removed, and you're wondering who that is in the photograph. So we really love this marriage with photos, and we cover it quite often. I'm going to click over and actually show you what an Artifacts account looks like in a timeline view, because JC focused first on what does a timeline view look like. Over at Artifacts, we do organize artifacts into years or decades. You can change your view, flip it. But the beauty of that is you can quickly scan. And actually, when we first built a timeline over here on Artifacts, I realized I didn't go to graduate school. I didn't live in the Czech Republic. I found all these life gaps and I was like, hold on. So over here, Artifacts, we're curating the moments and memories and the history. They talked about being memory keepers. We always talk about family keepers. You know, these are really cool moments of life that you'll forget. It has nothing to do with brain health. It has everything to do about busy brains and lives. So this is what a timeline view over here at Artifacts would look like. And you can click on any one of these. I can click on this necklace because I have been to Africa quite often. And so I have a lot of mementos that I wanted to capture the story behind, and I can go view any artifact. So what does an artifact look like? I'm going to focus on a few examples to talk to the story of the photos. Photos can't talk. This photo is actually of my great aunt. 6 months before she passed away, my family sent me to Artifact with her. The first thing she wanted to Artifact was this photograph. And it turns out she was a Rosie the Riveter. At age 20, she quit working at the family grocery store. She went to work at a local welding, Lion Metal, got trained by the US Navy, and that's the story she wanted to share. So in the artifact, I have a photo of her goggles. She still had them. Talk about things that must have been important to her. There she is on the cover of the brochure. Here's a newspaper article that caused the confusion in the family. They thought she just donated her time to welding fences in her community. And then here's a video of her telling us the story of learning to weld with the US Navy. So with an artifact, you can combine photo, video, and audio to tell the story any way you want, right? And you can add documentation too. In the case of this artifact, we have the brochure, we have a PDF of it, we have the job notice that she answered, and we have an award from the US Navy that she received for her work. These artifacts that you create are always private by default, but you can see this one is public. I made it public so everyone can view it. And I can also share with specific people, or I can share with groups that I make on artifacts. I can share it to social media. It's up to you who you would like to share it with. Another great example, any of you out there who have gone through the very tedious work of digitizing photo albums and scrapbooks. Again, you know, if you don't have the story behind every single page, and if you acknowledge they're probably decaying, falling apart, the glue's letting go, they're a mess. Well, as you digitize those and get them set up in your Mylio library, capture the story behind them. This is a great example where I snapped a photo of a photo because my mother does not play tennis. And here she is playing tennis. It might have as well have been a Halloween costume. It was so funny to me. And my daughter leans over my shoulder and she's like, who is that? I'm like, it's grandma, so she didn't know who it was. And I got a video of my dad, and he's telling me the story of my mother being really bad at tennis. There weren't even tennis nets, and she only got a B in the class. But now I have this story to go with this scrapbook that we digitized, and that's the magic. And frankly, I have my dad's voice. I don't have his voice in a lot of places, so I'm really grateful to have his voice too. In a more modern context, JC talked about the map view. I actually artifact my travels all the time. I don't know if any of you have had this experience where a friend or family member posts like 300 photos a day on Facebook of their great vacation, and you're thinking, I don't know what any of this means or why I should care. Like, just give me the highlights. The highlights from your Mylio library to your artifacts are what we do really, really well, right? Give people those bite-sized stories that take them with you on your vacation or inspire their next vacation. The number of people who have asked me for my artifacts about going to Cape Cod, it's innumerable, because people love going to Cape Cod and they're intimidated. And so I have this artifact. My daughter bought this little pennant in a store, and there she is, the little blonde one. We're going whale watching. There's the lighthouse, and there's the whale flying out of the water, right? So I like to be able to combine and tell these stories. And here in the description, I even link to other artifacts, favorite photos actually from the island. I am not a professional photographer like the others on this call, or even an amateur. I am just a hobbyist, pure just family fun. But I like to be able to link my stories together because, again, people like bite size. They don't necessarily have the bandwidth these days or the interest to hear 2 hours or look through 300 photos and not know what they are. So that's what we do here. And a final example I'll give you, JC was saying, how many of you scroll through your photos? Scroll, 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 scroll. The observation I have when I curate my photos, I do it on an airplane a lot. I'm just cleaning up my photos while I'm sitting there doing nothing else. One day I was scrolling, 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 and I realized for years, every time my daughter finds my phone, because she can't open it, she leaves me selfies, and they're hysterical. And it speaks to her personality. And I knew that these photos would just get lost among the thousands because I'm not sharing them. They don't have unique stories. It just speaks to her personality. So I created an artifact with her just being super goofy and leaving me these silly selfies all over the house. I think that when it comes to what matters most to you, it might not be intuitive, because it's possible the software is going to be like, that's blurry, or that's, you have, no context for that. There's no Eiffel Tower there. You choose to artifact is entirely up to you. And that's actually why it's so important that we changed the spelling of artifacts. We wanted you to think of the things of your life, the stuff that you keep that matters, or maybe the things you let go of and keep the memories. But it's not always valuable or historically relevant or belongs in a museum. It just means something to you. And once you've created these, as I said, you can share them. But more than that, let's say it's something valuable. You can actually send them to insurance or estate plan. You can download them in any of the formats that you would like. Unlike Facebook or something like that, we're not going to compress your files. If you download these photos, you can blow them up, and put them right on your wall. We are not compressing them. You get them back in their original format. You can print a PDF. Recently, I had someone write into us who printed a PDF to take to her father in assisted living, and that she printed a PDF of her 20 most recent artifacts of going around their childhood home where she now lives and telling stories for her father. And it was just beautiful, right? So we try and meet you where you're at. The last thing I'm going to point out before I pass it back over for a little live artifacting is the QR code. QR codes got reinvigorated during COVID, right? We're all using QR codes for menus and everything else. Here, what we're doing is acknowledging all the stuff in the house. And what is it? Why does it matter? And what are you going to do with it next? If you stick a QR code on it, it's not just a dress in a box. Now you know it's from 4 generations ago, and everyone from 4 generations has worn that dress. And here's the story. So with the QR code, you can link the physical objects or the photos on your wall, stick the QR code on, scan it, and up pops that story. So I'll pause there, and we're going to have a little artifacting fun now, right, Angela?
That is right. So I'm going to jump back in here and share my screen. And I've actually got my browser up here with my artifacts account. So I'm going to start here and go through the one that I've created so far. I'm just getting started on this journey, but already I can see the value to this. I started with a necklace that my husband bought me a few weeks ago. We were up in a little mountain town and I came across this necklace in a shop and I'm just like, I need this. And so he flagged down the sales lady and we found out it's an estate piece. It's silver and garnet. And I just absolutely love it. And I've been getting compliments every time I wear it. So I was like, this is a great first artifact. So what I did was I took a picture of it. This is just a quick cell phone shot. Just I was actually taking this picture to send it to my mom and be like, look at what my husband did. And so I put the information about where we purchased it, a little bit of information we know, and then I also had the receipt and I was like, well, I can grab that. So I took a quick picture of that with my cell phone and I uploaded that here as a document. And I do have that marked as private. Now, let me jump over to Mylio. So what I did here was I actually created an album, like JC was talking about in Mylio. And albums are virtual collections. When you bring photos into Mylio Photos, they're in different folders on your computer. And instead of having to physically move them around, you can virtually group them in an innumerable number of ways by using albums. And so you can organize things in whatever way makes sense to you. So this picture of my necklace could be in as many different albums as I wanted to, and it doesn't physically duplicate it or move it on my hard drive, which I love. So I was able to take this picture of the necklace and also the picture of the receipt and put them here in this album together. Now, one of the things I like about Mylio is it does let you hide things. So as I'm scrolling through all of my pictures, whether I'm in that all photos view or I'm looking through my calendar, I don't really want to see the receipt. I've already uploaded it to Artifacts. It's there. I'm not going to delete it, but what I can do here is just right click on this and choose hide photo. And now it's going to be hidden from this view. I can always get back to it later, but now I'm just looking at the stuff that's actually really important. So once I've done something with an artifact, I can take the kind of backup documentation that I don't necessarily want clogging up my feed and just focus on what really matters. So let's go ahead and start on my second artifact. And I went through my library and found pictures of my wedding quilt. So red is my favorite color, and growing up, I loved the toile pattern. So this pattern of fabric is known as toile, and it's usually like on a white background with some sort of color, and it's like cottage scenes. And there's different scenes you'll find in different patterns, but this is one that I really liked. And my grandma bought all this fabric, and then she decided to make this into our wedding quilt. So I went through my library and I went through some scans my parents have done of my grandmother's stuff. So like this is a picture she took on a bed in her house before she ever even gave it to me. So this is the finished product before she handed it off and some detailed shots that she took. I also took some in my own house once I got it. This is the cat my husband and I had when we first got married. We got him actually on our first anniversary. And you can see the quilt there on the bed. So I've got some pictures in here of pumpkin on there, our first place that we lived. You can see, just to give you kind of an idea here, how teeny tiny our place was. Like this place was very small, our bedroom, like that full-size bed, almost wall to wall in there. So, but we had this beautiful, amazing quilt, and it's so meaningful. And to add to this, I need to go pull out the quilt and take another picture of it because on the back of it, there's actually a little square my grandma hand wrote in fabric ink, you know, that little message of who it was from, who it was for, when she did it. And so I love all of those details. Also, as I was going through these pictures, I found the pictures of when she gave it to my husband and I. So she delivered it in a laundry basket, and there's a card there. You can see us reading the card and then looking at the details. Another thing I want to point out about this quilt is she did it entirely by hand. There is no machine quilting on this at all. She did both in different quilts. If she was in, a hurry and she wanted to kick something out quickly, she'd machine quilt. But stuff like this, the heirlooms, she would take that time and hand stitch. And the detail work on this piece is just absolutely phenomenal. The last thing I have here is included in this was she hand wrote notes of how to care for my quilt. So I took a picture of that, have this here in my Mylio as well. As JC alluded to, there's a lot of different ways that you can find these. And for me to find all of these pictures, I searched for quilt. I pulled up a bunch of them. I was pretty surprised, but the AI did a good job on that. I also know that red is a really prominent color here, so you can actually search for red. You can search for prominent colors. And then, of course, I knew that we got this, I think it was within 6 months or so after we got married, so that calendar view came in really handy. What I did from there, like I said, is I gathered these all into an album, this virtual collection, and now I need to decide what's going to become part of my artifact. Now, I don't know that it was mentioned before, but you probably noticed you're limited to 5 things or 5 pictures for your artifact. So what I want to do is kind of prioritize here what are going to be the most important. And I think obviously these ones of us getting the quilt, getting the gift, I'm just marking these with pick flags, and this just lets me know that I'm flagging them for a purpose. And I'm using the P key on the keyboard to go ahead and mark them. I think the handwritten instructions are also pretty precious. And then we want to get one here of the whole quilt, and that leaves us with one more. I also threw in a couple more modern pictures here just in the collection. This one here is kind of fun. You can see the quilts on the bed again. This was just earlier this year. I use it every winter. Doing laundry, my cat's helping. Thought it was a fun picture, but again, I'm not sure this is what needs to be in my artifact. And then I just bought this blanket ladder. You can see when I'm not using my quilts, I love to keep them on display. These are all from my grandma, by the way. And there's that wedding one there at the top. So which to pick for the fifth one? Do you guys, I'll ask Ellen and JC, do you guys have any suggestions for which other one you would choose?
How
I
much
like the
how much
detail.
time does Oh, go ahead, Ellen.
I like the up close detail. Like it's very dramatic.
This one
That's
here or the wider one?
The wider one.
That one? What about you, JC?
Well, I was gonna ask if the cat spends a lot of time on the quilt, even now.
They have, yeah. There's probably cat fur embedded in that quilt that I will never get out.
So either one of those, I actually do like the detail because it kind of shows you more of the texture of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I could always do a secondary artifact of cats and quilts. So,
Ah, that's perfect. I like that.
so we'll go ahead and start with these 5. What I'm going to do is go ahead and select these. And I'm just holding down my command or control key to go ahead and select these 5 images. And I'm going to export them out of Mylio. So I'm going to go over here to the share menu and choose export. And I'm going to go ahead and just make this into, we're going to use JPEGs. I'm going to use my original size, and we're going to do maximum quality. Because again, we're preserving an heirloom here, so we want it to be, good quality stuff. sRGB color space. I'm going to do all of my metadata here. So let's just go ahead and take a look here. I don't need the ratings. Well, people, places. Sure, we'll turn those on so that's the metadata. Don't need a watermark. File names can stay the same. All right, we're good. So we're going to go ahead and click export. And I typically do my exports to a temporary folder on my desktop. So on my desktop, if I scroll down, I already have a folder called exports. And this is where I put all of these temporary files. I know they're safe and backed up elsewhere. These are just temporary for a purpose, in this case, uploading to a website. So I'm going to say new folder, and we'll call this artifacts. Create that, and then open. And Mylio is going to go ahead and save a copy of these images to that folder. What I can do then is jump back over to Safari, and we'll go up here to the plus and do a new artifact. So let's go ahead and grab those pictures. I'm going to go here to my desktop and back to that exports folder. And there's my 5 images. And I'm going to go ahead and upload. And that's happening. So let's go ahead and that looks great. So let's go ahead and just close that for a second. All of my pictures are there. I'm going to call this wedding quilt. Oops. my keyboard's having a lag here. Give it a second. Apparently I'm doing too much right now. And let's see here, if we go under what is it, then we go, see, help me out here, Ellen. Is there a quilt? Would that be under textiles?
Textiles would be a great category.
So home goods, I guess, probably. All right. And in the future, let's see, I would love to see this kept in the family. You never know what people are going to do after you're gone, but that's my wish. If I wanted to, I could have taken this document here with the handwritten instructions. I could have converted that to maybe a PDF and added it as a file. But I like having it sitting there because having our handwritten notes, I think, is also pretty special. Here under tags, we can do we have one for quilts? We do. And we'll just leave it at that. But you can add in whatever other tags or keywords are relevant. and then choose whether you want this to be a public one or keep it private. It looks like it's defaulting to private, which is nice. And then I can go ahead and click save, and I've now made another artifact. Is there anything else that I missed here, Ellen?
It's missing a description or story. What do you want to tell
Oh,
people about this?
I kind of skipped over that because my keyboard's being so laggy. Let's see, Grandma.
Well, the beauty is you can write something short and sweet and edit it later.
There we go. Come on.
I do really like the ability to edit things later because sometimes you just
Yeah,
want to get it. Like I know this is going to be an artifact. I don't
there we go.
have time to do the whole story now, but it's like anything in life. Once you get started, the process becomes easier and easier. So for me, what I found useful is just creating it, and then later on I go back and I edit and like you don't have to know all the tags right away. You don't have to know every little detail right away. So
Perfect. So there it is. I can now share it. I can view it. Um, and that's it. That's how easy it is to make an artifact. And then the fact that I can go through and I can download this, especially with things like heirloom jewelry, things like you might need to send to insurance. That download, I did a test run of those to see what you got with each of these. That's phenomenal. I think this is actually one of the coolest features. Um, you can get to your stuff anytime. So yeah, that's my demo. I think it's really cool, and I love how Mylio and Artifacts can work together to get everything organized, to pull those stories together, and this gives you a place to actually tell and share that story. So, JC, do you have something you want to share?
I'll do one more quick one,
We've got time.
and then we'll take questions. So one of the things that I like about artifacts is that it doesn't have to necessarily be for things that you're keeping or that you're passing on. It can be for things that you want to get rid of, but you want to remember, right? Um, about a year ago, my wife and I sold our house and we went from 3,000 square feet, because it's just the two of us now, to 1,200 square feet, which meant we had to purge a lot. And what we did during that time we were getting ready to move is we took photos of things that were important to us, but they were not worth keeping. And one example was these shoes here. Um, these shoes have been to many, many parts of the world with me. And it was very sentimental for me to get rid of them. Um, so I just took a picture, but when I took the photo, I didn't know what I was going to do with the photo. I just knew that it was time to let them go. I wanted one more photo, and I thought about like posting something on Facebook about the story of the shoes, but I'm like, no, there's such a mix of people on Facebook that I don't care to share this with. Um, so I just took the photo and didn't do anything till I learned about artifacts. And today, with you together, we're going to go ahead and create an artifact about the shoes. And what I was able to do because of the folder organization in Mylio, most of my photos are taken during trips. So I actually have a folder of all of my trips. And when I go in there, they're right now they're sorted by date. So I can see all the folders by date. And I know I bought these shoes right before I went to Galapagos for the first time, which was in 2006. So I was able to go into that folder and go and find any photos where I could see the shoes. Um, and then I did that with a couple of trips that I thought I had been in, including going back to Galapagos 15 years later with the same shoes. That was one of the last trips that the shoes had. And I added all of those to a folder, and you can see them here. And one of the great things is that you can see, once you've geotagged a photo, you can see the location. So here's the folder in the shoes being worn in Ecuador, back when I had more hair, and in Honduras, and in it says Netherlands, but it's actually in Bonaire, which is an island off the coast of Venezuela that is a Dutch um, colony or a part of the Dutch Antilles. There's the Grand Canyon, there's a video. So I found a bunch of photos of the shoes. So now I'm just gonna grab a few of these. And I'm lazy, So I found an easier way of actually adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perfect, of adding these photos to Artifact that doesn't require exporting. Exporting is great because it gives you a great degree of control, but I'm lazy. So in Mylio, we have this feature called System Clipboard. And what it does is it allows you to basically copy and paste photos from one place to another. And just like Angela was showing you with export, I have the ability here to determine the quality and the resolution of the photos, even what data I include, or I can even put a watermark. So what I'm doing is I'm going to share this to the Mylio clipboard. So Mylio basically just copy a version of this photos to my clipboard. I'm going to go to artifacts here. I'm going to create a new artifact. And I'm going to, using my keyboard, do, paste. And all the photos get highlighted. So I just did Command V. And there's all the photos that I brought over highlighted. I'm going to click open. And there they are. I'm not going to do captions, all of that in the interest of time. And one of the files was too big, so I'll need to convert the video to a smaller file. But there it is. And now I can say the shoes. What is this? Well, they are shoes. So I'm going to start typing shoe here. And there it goes, apparel, clothing. So, and in the future, well, it's too late. I already parted with it. Enjoy the memory, which the first time I saw that, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I did, right? Um, and then I'll eventually tell the story of the shoes, right? Uh, what are shoes that travel with me? Travel. And there you have it. I'll just save it. And now the shoes are part of my collection. So there you go. So with that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and we'll take questions or answer anything else. I know Angela has a little bit more information for you all.
Yeah, so we just want to, as a thank you for you guys joining us today, if you are not already a member of Artifacts or Mylio, here are a couple of coupon codes that'll save you 20% off of each. I believe these are for new memberships only. For Artifacts, I believe that coupon code is case sensitive. Am I correct, Ellen? All right, perfect. So make sure you capitalize that M and the F and Mylio Friends for that. And then if you go to Mylio and you'd like to get a Mylio subscription, go ahead and enter Artifacts 20. Make sure you spell it here, missing the, with the proper spelling. Artifacts 20, and you'll get 20% off of new plans with Mylio Photos, either an individual or a family plan. So please feel free to take advantage of those. Also, if you go to both mylio.com, artifacts.com, you can get more information about what we're all about, learn more about our programs, and I'm sure you can reach out to all of us. I know Lori, JC, and I, you can find us in the Mylio community very easily. So if you go to community.mylio.com, you can message us, ask us questions, post questions, and we'll do our best to help you with everything. And I'm pretty sure that Artifacts has some similar resources for you.
You bet. You can go to hello@artifacts.com. We will be very quick to answer. And we do have a YouTube channel with all sorts of great how-to videos and past webinars too.
Fantastic. All right. I think from there we can go ahead and open the floor for questions. And I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A yet. Looks like Lori's been busy though, taking care of some of those behind the scenes. So thank you, Lori. Is there anything in the chat that we have missed?
Nothing at this time. So if you folks have any questions, feel free to ask.
Awesome. Well, we'll hang out for a few minutes here. And if anybody has questions, go ahead and put those into the Q&A, or at this point, you can put them into the chat too, and we'll do our best to get those answered. And if not, you know where to reach us to follow up. And, we hope you enjoyed this session. I know JC and I both had fun curating the photos for this. This was a really cool project, and we're excited to work with Artifacts.
It's our pleasure. And thanks, everybody. I know that photos can feel overwhelming. Just start is what I always tell people. Start with that favorite memory or the most recent or whatever it is. Just start.
We
Thank
do
you so
have
much.
we do have a question, and I'm gonna make this a two-part question because it's a bit general. They said, how safe is the data? So Ellen, I'm gonna let you answer first regarding how you at Artifacts manage data, and then Angela or I will answer how Mylio manages your data.
Yeah. One fun fact I didn't share at the beginning is that my co-founder and I are both former CIA intelligence officers. And so we take privacy and security very seriously. I'm actually going to paste in the chat our page that has all the details about security and privacy encryption. And the encryption is both like as you save it, when it's saved, as well as when you hit play on that video, for example, or you click share, right? So that's what transfer means. So we do that as well. Now, what we aren't is also important. We're not a bank. We are not your healthcare company. we do not work with that kind of data. And that's something to be mindful of. And we actually talk a lot about that. So we're very annoying about security and privacy. So for example, my daughter recently got her driver's license, her temporary license, and she artifacted it. I made her blank out her date of birth and information on it because this is not the point of that artifact. And we want people to be really smart and safe with their information. But that page that I put there has all of that information that you're looking for. And I just want to reiterate, every artifact you create is private by default. Every setting is no. Do you want to show your name? No. Do you want to do this? No. Everything is no unless you choose otherwise. Over to you all.
All right. Angela, you wanna go?
Sure. So with Mylio, we are ultra privacy focused and we focus on local storage. While you can put your stuff in the cloud with Mylio, it is completely optional. So you always have control over your stuff. Any AI models that we work with in the program work locally on your machine. And if you choose to use cloud storage with Mylio Photos, you have the option to encrypt it. So you have full control over your stuff. Nobody at Mylio can see your stuff. Only devices signed in with your Mylio account can see things in your account. So we are very, very big on privacy and security as well. And if you have questions about that, please check out the privacy policy on our website. And if you have questions, let us know.
Yeah, and I will add to that that there's a lot of features within the app that help you protect your data. One of them is called Save Share. So when you go to export or share a photo in any way, with one click of a button, thank you, Angela, for demonstrating. Uh, um, you can just click that button and any metadata that was part of that photo gets stripped. So you're sharing just the visual without any metadata, no location, who the people are, when the photo was taken, what camera was used. All of that is stripped with just one button. And like Ellen was saying, that's usually on by default. So you'll have to turn it back on to allow that data to be shared.
Yep.
All right, I'm moving on to the next question. Hope that was answered satisfactorily. How much data may we keep in Mylio if you have all of your videos and photos on it? For example, 1 TB. Well, there is no limit. The limit is only how much space do you have, because with Mylio, the data is on your devices. What you typically do is you designate one or more devices to be a vault. And a vault is the device in Mylio that's going to keep the full-size original version of your media. And the vault can be as big as you want. We have people with 4 million media in their library. There's just a handful of those. Having over 1 million is pretty common. We have hundreds of users that have over 1 million photos. The majority of them have 50 to 60,000 photos and anywhere from 2 to 4 TB. But again, there is no limit to the size of your library. You can have as many devices as you want, synchronizing with each other, and you can add as much media as you want. You're only limited by the physical storage on your devices. If you choose to add cloud storage, again, you're only limited by how much cloud storage you bring in and share your library to. And there's a lot of settings in Mylio to minimize what some devices' storage needs are. And you can learn more about that on our website.
Excellent. All right. Are there any other last minute questions? Thank you guys all again for being here. It looks like Ellen had to drop off. She had someplace she had to be. So thanks to her and to Artifacts for doing this with us. We really enjoyed it. Again, check out Artifacts, check out Mylio, and let us know if you have any questions. With that, we want to wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to see you at more of our events. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.